Hi, everybody. Welcome to another FacilitiesNet podcast. I'm your host, Todd Fabus, and I'm joined once again by Brent Dobson, the Director of Government Accounts from Grasshopper Mowers. Brent, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Todd.
Yeah, so as a vet of the podcast world, say we can just jump right into some new questions that I wanted to bounce off you. Almost a bit of a continuation of our last discussion. So for anybody listening, I'd encourage you to listen to the last time Brent was a guest. You can find that on the website, and then we'll jump in here. I was kind of thinking, so like, what are some key factors facilities managers, FMs, should consider during their purchase to benefit them down the road on maintenance? And we're kind of talking a general theme again, picking up a bit where we left off of, how to save time and money with your existing mowing fleet maintenance. Kind of basing it off of that is a bit of a theme for today's discussion.
Sure. Well, and I think that's probably a really important question. I mean, most of the time when people are buying mowers, they're looking at specs. What do they currently use? What do they like, don't like? What do they want better? And one of those things many times is, how much life or life cycle did they get out of a piece of equipment? If you got a mower and it lasts you 2 years, or if it lasts you 5 or 7 years, sometimes you want to go back to something that's survived what would be considered the lifespan for the agency. And I think when they're looking at equipment, specifically like zero-turn mowers, they look at the specs. I noticed that many times facility managers, if they've had a problem with something, let's say they've had a problem with a clutch, then they'll ask, how is your clutch, for example? They have very specific things they've had problems with. But I think overall, they should probably look at, well, how much is it to maintain this piece of equipment, in terms of take the time to see, are things accessible? Because if a piece of equipment is accessible, like it's easy to get to a grease point, it's easy to get to a filter, then it's going to get done on a regular basis and not ignored, for example. Another overall thing is, depending on the size of their fleet, if they've got more than a couple machines, if you're talking about like an actual fleet of mowers, they might want to talk to the dealer about bulk pricing on parts. Instead of buying one filter, what if I bought 50 filters? And is there some savings there for them up front when they're buying their equipment? Because sometimes that can be put in the initial purchase.
Sure.
Or if they're leasing equipment, it can be put into the lease purchase of the equipment. So those are some things they should probably consider.
Yeah, no, that's true. Do you think it's worth buying OEM parts?
Well, I think absolutely. And I know that's probably an easy answer from an OEM manufacturer. But the reality is that, mowers like Grasshopper are designed with certain parts to give them the best life cycle. So, not all filters are the same, not all oil, not all tires, not all belts are the same. Grasshopper, for example, we use a design match transmission. So we pair like a pump and wheel motor together to give us the best speed and best performance and the best durability. But part of that is we use like a high efficiency 7-micron filter. We use a specially formulated Coolmax hydro fluid that actually lowers operating temperatures. And basically what that gives them is more durability, longer service life.
Yeah.
I think that if you go and you're making those decisions of this filter's $2 less or whatever, you really need to be thinking about, well, is that $2 worth me changing oil more often, or is it going to fit right? Those are some things, because a lot of people tell you it's just as good, but when you're talking about a piece of equipment that you're putting hundreds, if not thousands of hours on, and I would probably say that you got to also put it in perspective. When you're talking about 1,000 hours on like a mower, that would be maybe the equivalent of 1,000,000 miles on a car.
Geez, really?
So you got to kind of look at, I need the best parts on this so that I'm getting the best performance out of it. And that's really going to be what saves you money down the road and lowers your operating costs.
Yeah, that's actually a fascinating take there on the mileage, or the hours, I should, not mileage, the hours spent. Man, it's pretty eye opening. Briefly before I ask you something else here, you can check out, everybody, Grasshopper, the website here. I want to make sure I get out there is grasshoppermower.com. Couldn't be easier to find. Exactly, spelled exactly as it is. So grasshoppermower.com if you're looking for more information here about about the company and how they can help. So I envisioned, I had at one point thought it'd be fun to kind of write down some like rapid fire type questions, but
Yeah.
admittedly I couldn't come up with enough that were like rapid fire like. So I settled on this one. Number one thing facilities managers can do to reduce maintenance costs.
Well, and I'm sure opinions vary, but what I would suggest is an actual preventive maintenance program, and preventive maintenance being kind of the key words there. So when you get a piece of equipment and you run it for a period of time, your belts are going to break in, and there's some other factors like your terrain and some things. But having a program in place to know, okay, this is what I need to do daily. This is what I need to do at 100 hours, 200 hours, 1,000 hours. Having those things in place is just going to basically give them a structure to better maintain the mower, give them better performance out of the mower. You take something as simple as blades and maintaining their sharpness and things, but using OEM parts is certainly a factor in there in terms of part of your preventive maintenance program. Are you using the right belts, again, tires, oil, things of that nature. And I would also, a subcategory of that, I would suggest, being sure that your operators are trained, not just on the operation, but to watch for things. If they know they've been mowing in an area that has rocks or sand or something, that's going to put more wear on a mower. So
There was zero hesitation from you in that response when I asked the number one thing FMs can do to reduce maintenance costs. So you must really believe in the preventative maintenance program.
I think it just comes from years of seeing mowers and fleets,
Yeah.
and you can tell the people that have hundreds and thousands of hours on a piece and people that aren't barely getting 500 hours on a piece, and a lot of that has to do with, do you have a program of how you take care of it? So
I was equally impressed just how quickly the answer came out. A lot of people, when you toss out like the number one thing, or what's the top thing somebody can do, they usually kind of hem and haw a little bit about what the answer is. So color me impressed. Um, moving along, how do you think mowing? Talk about the blades here a little bit with the mower, right? Like how do mowing blades affect the mower operating costs?
well, I think that obviously blades are going to be a wear item. They're gonna run through. You're gonna have to sharpen them. You're gonna replace them. But really, both the quality of the blades and the sharpness of the blades have a lot of benefits for reduced stress on belts. They actually can improve fuel economy. How a blade maintains its edge has to do with the type of blade. For example, Grasshopper uses a Marbain blade.
Okay.
It's a thicker blade. It's designed to a certain hardness scale so that it can hold up in the commercial mowing and hold its edge longer. What that basically means is you get more sharpenings out of the blade. The Marbain blade that we use is actually a 1/4 inch thick. There's many aftermarket blades that are only like 0.20 inches or just, not as thick, that basically they wear faster. They don't hold up to certain grasses and sand and some things, which can speed up your wear. But overall, your blades are kind of on the deck side. One of the places that you start, that if you got a better blade, you're going to have a better quality of cut. You're going to have reduced stress on other components. I would even go so far as, like Grasshopper has what's called a GrassMax blade system, where we actually have 7 different blades, depending on how you're mowing. If you're side discharging, collecting, mulching, rear discharging, there's different types of blades you want to use in those applications to give you the best performance. And they're all Marbain blades, which is great. The market even has, we have a laser edge blade that the Marbain blade actually has a material laser edged on the back of the edge that allows you just to run the blade, never sharpen it, just run it. It's certainly for certain conditions like facility managers, higher education, universities, things of this nature, where you're mowing on a very consistent basis, and you can just basically run the blade through its life cycle, change it, and keep moving.
How often, if you do need to sharpen it, like, I mean, most blades need to be sharpened, right? But like, how often do you think blades should be sharpened? That kind of ties into the operating costs you touched on. Just it's more just
I,
curiosity on
you
that.
know, certainly that's for one angle. If everything's kind of in good condition. And what I mean by that is grass, and you're mowing good conditions, I'd say 8 hours you should be sharpening your blades on
Really?
a regular basis. Um, there's a lot of things that go into that. And when I say 8 hours, those are people that want absolute pristine cut all the time. Okay.
Okay.
Some people are good enough, and some people want it to look like a carpet. And really, you should probably be sharpening your blades every 8 hours. But I'm hesitant just because, well, some grasses are tougher than others. When you mow in the south and there's sand, that's going to create a wear, so you may have to sharpen more often. If you mow in a state park, for example, and they've got rocks, and that's going to put chips in your blades.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to have to sharpen more often. So those are some things that play a role.
Yeah. I got to make a note of that one because I don't know how many times I hit the roots going around some of the trees in my own yard, but
Well, I'll give you just a small bit of advice. I've noticed sometimes people will see the tips of their grass blades start to turn brown. Okay.
Okay.
That's an indicator that the blade is actually more tearing the grass than cutting it off. That means your blades are starting to get dull. And if you put a fresh set of blades on, or if you sharpen that, then it'll look clean again. You won't see those little brown tips on the top.
Look at that. That is a good bit of advice. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody can use that one, no matter who you are. So kind of staying on you touched on this a little bit, but like how do mowing conditions, yeah, you did touch on this, but we can ask it anyway. How do mowing conditions affect maintenance cycles?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, mowing is a weather dependent thing. When it's raining, you're going to be mowing more often, and when it's dry, you're going to be mowing less often. So when the weather is a factor and you're getting a lot of rain and the grass is growing fast, you're going to be mowing more often. Therefore, the machine's going to be putting more hours on it. You're going to be going through your maintenance cycles more often. Certainly, rocks and objects that hit the blades can increase wear. Sand is extremely brutal on decks and blades, depending on where you're mowing. There's also, issues like thorns that might cause some issues, and you might look at alternatives like flat-proof tires. Grasshopper offers wheels and tire sealant, for tires. I do recommend that facilities don't foam fill their tires. I know some that do that, and that actually causes more problems than good, because when you foam fill tires, you actually add weight and you affect the hydros and some things.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So just all good things to kind of consider when it comes
Yeah,
to.
it's all good stuff to know too. I don't know. I think I'm sure it's just all really pertinent info for people who are maintaining the landscape of their facilities for sure.
Yeah.
Um, those are the questions I had jotted down for you for this rendition for you. I think you've officially become the first two-time guest, so you can wear that proudly.
Thank you.
Maybe we can make you the first three-time guest. You're definitely be the clubhouse leaders. It'd be tough to catch.
Sure.
But once again, everybody, the guest today for this FacilitiesNet podcast was, as we spoke with, I spoke with Brent Dobson, who is the Director of Government Accounts for Grasshopper Mowers. And again, you can learn more about Grasshopper and how they can help your facilities at grasshoppermower.com. Once again, grasshoppermower.com. And Brent, thanks so much for coming back and carving out a little bit more time to chat about Grasshopper and how they can help facilities managers. I think that's something that a lot of people can use. So thanks so much for your time. It is greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, Todd. Have a great day.
You too.